DW. DW. Africa Link.
Now, to strengthen our fight against gang violence, I will be deploying the South African National Defence Force to support the police. Water is now the single most important issue for many people in our country. We have all seen the pain that our people have been expressing through demonstrations in various parts of Gauteng.
South Africans want jobs, access to basic amenities like water and healthcare, and an improved standard of living. While President Cyril Ramaphosa highlights key achievements and reflects on progress made, his government faces mounting pressure to move from plans and proposals to concrete actions and reforms.
Because systematically, the Defence Force funding has been reduced. So as we speak, they can perfect their deployment, and we have seen what happened also when they were deployed in DRC.
He's on the one hand showcasing there is a convoluted world. There is increased rivalries and particularly a difficult relationship with countries like the US.
Stay tuned for this and more coming up shortly. I am Adwoa Domena, and you're welcome to Africa Link, the podcast that connects you to the stories that matter.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
On Thursday, February 12, 2026, President Cyril Ramaphosa delivered the State of the Nation address, Sona, to South Africans. The annual constitutional speech affords the president the opportunity to update citizens on progress made, highlight key achievements, address challenges, and outline the government's policy direction and program of action for the year ahead. What were the expectations of South Africans for the 2026 Sona? What is the current state of the nation according to citizens, and how do they assess the fulfillment of promises made since the formation of the unity government? Well, for more on this, we're joined by Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast. He's a political analyst. We also have DW's Thuso Khumalo from Johannesburg. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Prof, this question is for you. I have checked a few scorecards of President Ramaphosa's 2025 State of the Nation's address, the promises he made and how many have been kept. So there are two narratives I've seen. One says there is a good sense of achievement. If you look at some 6 key promises he made, out of that, about 3 of them have been kept. About 3 of them are currently in progress, which is a good score. So that was by the Africa Check. On the other hand, I've also checked from Daily Maverick, which has listed about 10 promises made by the president and giving him a hard fail. Out of the 10, they say he has only achieved 1, 3 are in progress, 6 have failed. What is your own verdict of the 2025 State of the Nation address before we get into this year's?
The priorities of the GNU have been the reduction of poverty, creating jobs, growing the economy. Those 3 markers have been key, but the government has fallen short. There has been an overplayed discourse that our economy has been doing well since the GNU was formed because they've been removed from grey listing. But that is not true. The best economic measure to examine the economic performance is inequality, poverty, and unemployment. If you look at unemployment, in fact, the economy has not been growing the way it should have. If it grew, it grew less than 1%. So there has not been a trickling down effect. Again, if you look at Gini coefficient, the disparity is still wide between the powerful and the powerless, between the haves and the have-nots. Along racial lines, so the GNU has not done well. I mean, even in terms of putting the government or the country on a global scale, the GNU doesn't even have a foreign policy, in my view, because the foreign policy that is being used is still the one of the ANC. So from the last time we delivered a State of the Nation address, most of those commitments were not honored. And I just hope that even tonight, it won't be just beautiful English, and then after that is business as usual.
What expectation do you sense on the political grounds among the citizenry? What is a sense of what people expect from President Cyril Ramaphosa?
I think the citizens feel let down. I don't think people have an interest on the whole in what the president will be saying, because they know year in and year out there are these promises. So people are just going to, those who are interested, just to watch him delivering that speech. But I think people have lost faith in politicians, in particular in the ANC. Otherwise, the ANC would have won the elections by itself. Because there are service delivery protests year in and year. Even the ANC has acknowledged that the people that it deploys, that's why they summoned their councillors into a roll call towards the end of last year.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, the ANC has been on the back foot because of the bad track record of service delivery.
Interesting. So we are recording this podcast ahead of the address, and probably by the time it airs, the address may already have happened. How central do you think the issue of water really will be for the assessment of this State of the Nation address?
Well, water is life. South Africa doesn't have enough reservoirs, but the problem has been the deployment of cadres who don't, you see, for instance, in many municipalities, people tend to presuppose that anyone can be an administrator, forgetting that administration is a profession. And with this section of water, the maintenance of water, you need engineers, you need good town planners, you need good managers who are going to invest in the infrastructure. So sometimes pipes are old, they cannot pump water. I think we get some water from Lesotho, as you might know. We don't have like big reservoirs, big dams like on the continent. So, but at local government level, because this is where the challenge lies, it has been about bad appointments, people not appointed on merit. And because of that, I think we find ourselves in this quagmire of a slow pace of service delivery within the context of water. And the issue of water also poses a threat to the economy, because how do you run a business without water? So it's really a security threat. But also, you must have heard about the insensitive statement that was made by the Premier of Gauteng that, this thing affects almost everyone, including himself. That's why he takes a bath at a hotel. How do you say that to citizens, that you go to a hotel to take a bath? That showcases that you're not in touch with what is happening at grassroots level.
Yeah.
So those have been the challenges, and they are going to pay. The ANC is going to pay a heavy price at the polls because of this issue of water insecurity.
Very well. Let me bring in Thuso now. Thuso, some people believe that it appears that President Cyril Ramaphosa is fixing the system. And this is highly debatable, because in some quarters, you hear people say that he's doing fairly well, the economy is doing fairly well. But still people insist that he's failing on the street, where citizens, are facing the real challenges: water, jobs, access to quality health. What is your own assessment as you speak to South Africans on how the state of the economy is future?
Just like our expert said, the greatest way of measuring whether the economy or the government is performing to its best is the status of citizens, is the views of the citizens, the mood on the ground as we go, as this State of the Nation address take place, is that of being disgruntled. People are saying, many of them will tell you that the basic services, as basic as water and housing, is still a far-fetched dream for many of these people. I mean, if you look across Johannesburg, the number of people that are staying in shacks, in informal settlement, you'll see what people are saying. And the conditions of living there, most of them, when these floods are happening across, you go to Durban, you go to Limpopo, living in towns, they live in low-lying areas, very dangerous health-wise. And also when these floods come, these sheikhs are always being swept away, and they've got to be found a temporal place and taken back again. So this back and forth for citizens. They are saying they are just tired of this because poverty keeps on growing, and these politicians keep on promising year and year in and year out. So for citizens on the ground, really, the notion that the economy is doing well, yes, like the prof said, you talk about being removed from grey listing, but that does not affect or impact on the ordinary person on the ground. The ordinary person on the ground, they need food on the table. They need bread on their table. They need clean water. They need proper housing, things that are not coming forth from this government of the national unit or even before that. So for people, it's about bread and butter issues, and for them, that is not happening.
Prof, why do you think that is not happening? Why do you think it's taking the government of national unity a while to even have an understanding of what real challenges the people are facing?
South Africans, their challenges are known even by the people at grassroots level themselves. They know what challenges they're faced with: unemployment, poverty, inequality, crime, gender-based violence. Why do you need another new analysis? Because you're not going to uncover anything that is not known. So I don't get it. We cannot be stuck in theorization. The most important thing now is to get the job done, promote development, honor the promises you have made, instead of being a philosopher of war and wanting to solve these problems at a theoretical level. I mean, to be honest, it's the same discourse that has been framed, that you need people to come together at a national dialogue and debate what are the challenges. What for?
Interesting. Some people believe that the personality of Cyril Ramaphosa as a person comes to play here a lot, because we have seen him appear like a person who is very interested in dialogue. And so if there's an immediate problem that needs fixing, he would rather consult, he would rather try to get all stakeholders on board. Is that a good or a bad thing?
Yes, I agree with you. In politics, the personality of any president does shape both domestic and foreign policies. I mean, I can use Trump as a case in point. You know what I'm talking about. So yes, the personality of the president does shape development policy, because President Ramaphosa has a background of being in the union. He was part of CODESA. He was part of crafting the Constitution, which is Act 108 of 1996. So because of that background, I think that has influenced his worldview regarding politics, that you negotiate power, that maybe power can be uneven, but power must be negotiated. But sometimes he tends to consult too much. If you are a president, are you going to consult on everything? Surely other things you have to make a call by yourself without any consultation. Yeah, I think you need to weigh things.
Right. Now, I've seen a statement from the Democratic Alliance, and they have been, sharing their expectations ahead of this year's Sona. And they said they want reforms and actions, not plans and proposals, because they believe the time for plans and proposals and visions have long passed. The DA is part of the unity government. For you, what does this mean for the GNU?
This is a very interesting arrangement, because you have political parties across the political spectrum with different political convictions and persuasions. That leads to contradictions. No wonder the DA did not want to vote for the fiscal policy last year, which is the budget. If you have a plan, for that plan to take off the ground, you need finance to make that plan to achieve its intended objectives. The DA is a liberal party. They believe in the free market system. They believe in what the West says. So that will lead to the DA and the ANC crossing swords on issues of development policy and development practice and fiscal policy. It's going to be interesting because after this speech, the Minister of Finance will have to table a budget as well. That will be interesting because remember the DA they believe in fiscal discipline, which is the reduction of government expenditure because we have budget deficit, meaning that we spend more than what we have. Now, they believe that this expansionary fiscal policy, which is the increment of government expenditure, is catching up with us because we can't keep up with the debt. That's why they believe that government must reduce its expenditure so that it can pay the debt. They are not going to speak the same language with the ANC. But now what compounds the situation is that the DA wants to be part of the GNU. On the other hand, they want to criticize the very GNU that they are part of. They are applying double standards, dangerous politics. It's bad because it conveys mixed messages to the market force. Whether you like it or not, the state cannot operate by itself. It cannot operate alone. It needs to join forces with the market forces because it doesn't have the capacity to absorb everyone. So you need to work with the private sector. Well, they believe in the developmental state, which is a strong state that leads development, which is the Chinese model, the Asian tigers model, which is fine. But when you have instability, when you have water security, when you have all these problems, it poses a threat now to the market forces. And I mean, who wants to invest in a country where there is market uncertainty?
Right. So do you see a sense of hope among citizens? I mean, you've earlier mentioned that people meet the State of the Nation address with a lot of skepticism. But do you have a sense that people are hopeful that things will get better?
Listen to what the people are saying on the ground. I recently attended a protest where people were protesting for basic things like water. You can tell that people have no hope of any of their challenges being solved by the authorities. I mean, like the prof mentioned there, you have this acute shortage of water where people have gone for 21 days without water on their taps, and you hear the premier coming to say one alternative is to go to the next hotel and bath there. So people have no hope. I mean, when you listen to the mayor, how they are solving these things, it's a long-term program. They don't have a sense of urgency that there are people without water now. There are people that are not employed now, not next year. I mean, you hear from the Sona these big numbers of infrastructure development and investment companies, the plans of companies that are coming. But people are saying, we are hungry now. We have no jobs now. So for people, for an ordinary person who is looking at the government to provide those services, for them, there is no hope. And if you look at the level of corruption that's happening in the country, people going and looting monies that are meant for hospitals. Remember, they are public hospitals meant for the poor who cannot afford private hospitals. Where do they get hope from there? When the money to try and cushion the only hospital or the only clinic that they have in their area has been looted, no one is arrested, no one is before the court. So these are some of the things that people are saying to say, whatever the government says, as long as we don't see actions on the ground, our hope is just gone. We have no hope of our lives getting better because the same people that are promising are the same people involved in looting the funds that are meant to improve their life.
Very interesting. It looks to me like it's a very gloomy situation. But Prof, as we wrap up, do you have any hopes yourself of things getting better, especially under this GNU?
Have taken it upon themselves to punish the powers that be when they fall short of getting the job done. People have taken back the concept of popular sovereignty, which is their source of power, that they hire and they fire. So if you look at the majority of eligible voters, it's the youth. And the romanticism of the past, the glorification of history, the preservation of tradition, those are things of the past. So if the GNU, which is led by the ANC, doesn't deliver, it's gonna be punished. The ANC in particular, or the two, or all the coalition partners. But I think the ANC has everything to lose, because you can see they've got a large footprint in the GNU. They will be punished at the polls. Mark my words. Watch this space in the upcoming local government elections. Watch this space in the upcoming general elections. They got 40% on the dot, even at local government level. It will be a disaster, the percentage that they will get, because they're delivering. They don't draw a lesson from their failures. They don't learn.
How does South Africa move forward from this point where there seems to be a stalemate between what citizens expect, what government is delivering, and the promises that keep coming? How does the country move forward from here?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, I think people need to ask themselves a question: whether the leaders that they've elected, whether as citizens they can look up to. You know, we have a problem of poor leadership. When you are a leader, regardless of which office you occupy, and your followers cannot look up to you, it means that you are providing poor leadership. Now, when people crack jokes about their leaders because they're not inspired by them, then it means that they are let down. Now, we have to ask ourselves the question: should we be led by the kinds of people that are leading us, or should we look for other alternatives? Fortunately, now we have first past the post. People can vote for independent candidates, especially at local government level. So I think those are the conversations that people need to have, so that they get out of the quagmire that they find themselves in. Otherwise, if they have faith in the current political structures, it means that they are still going to have the challenges that they have, even in the next 10 years or 5 years.
We just heard Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast, he's a political analyst. Earlier, you also heard DW's Thuso Khumalo joining us from Johannesburg. Thank you so much, both of you.
Africa is changing. Don't get left behind. Tune in to Africa Link.
Following the State of the Nation address on Friday, February 12, we spoke to some South Africans about whether the expectations were met.
The State of the Nation was the best that President Ramaphosa has ever given. He spoke about all the issues. What impressed me the most was the army being unleashed for the gang problem in Cape Town. He spoke about illegal foreigners. He spoke about businesses that hires illegal foreigners. We have turned the corner as the GNU. We are not where we want to be, but we are not where we used to be, but we are turning the corner.
Yeah, no, this was a waste of 7 million rand. He could have just sat in his office and did like he did in COVID times. There was really no point in us coming here to hear more of the same, more of the same. Last year, he promised an economic growth of 3%, and what did we have? We didn't even get to 1%. Promised jobs and everything, absolutely nothing happened. The unemployment has risen, poverty has risen, and now what we have is corruption-inspired water crisis. This water crisis that we have is man-made. It's because of corruption and lack of governance, lack of maintaining proper infrastructure. That's what you always get.
That is what we've been hearing for so long. We've been getting updates and updates that are not changing. Every day we are working on the problem, we are working on the problem. We've stopped reading the updates. The less they say, the more they do, the happier we'll be.
However, citizens believe the real state of the nation is measured by how many jobs have been created, how many people have access to potable water, and how many people are able to put food on their tables. How does South Africa address this growing disconnect between promises and reality? Share your thoughts with us on Facebook at DW Africa. Listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, and subscribe to our DW Africa YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. This show was co-produced and edited by Isaac Mugabe. I am Adwoa Domena. Many thanks for listening.
DW. Made for minds.